Well, today we're going to be talking about how can you get a no-till drill like this calibrated for what you want to get done. Today we're on the Keith Rittinger farm, and Keith also happens to be the gentleman who's in charge of maintenance of this drill. So you're fortunate to have somebody like Keith to help you out because we've been kind of fiddling around here for a few minutes trying to find, which combination of settings allows us to calibrate this drill. Now, Keith has this drill set up already so that we are running level, and that's important. We've got the coulter depth set, and that's important because we don't want to be too deep in the front. Otherwise, it doesn't matter what you're doing in the back if you're digging a deep hole in the front. Because with our forage crop seeds, typically for everything except for Sudan grass, pearl millet, the bigger seeds, we want to be 1/4 to 1/2 inch in depth. And my rule of thumb for that is if you don't see some seed on top of the ground after you're done drilling a pass, either it's too deep or no seeds coming out. In this section of the video is how to calibrate the rate. Now, this particular drill has got a large seed box and then a small seed box in the back. Whether you choose one or the other depends on the seed type you're using and how much you want to put out. Now, Keith wanted to put out about 23 pounds of alfalfa, and if you were to go to the small seed box, then it can only, if you open it up wide open, it can only get to about 20 pounds. To be very familiar with is your seed rate manual, because it's going to have charts for the big seed box, the small seed box, and different crops. For his alfalfa, we looked up the setting for alfalfa, set it on the large adjustment dial on the front here, and we're going to check it now by using the crank here attached to this shaft. Some drills have got a crank that's mounted here so you can use it, or it's convenient for you to use. But of course, Keith is handy. He's got the right socket size. He's got the right socket and wrench, so we're going to do that. Now, the manual will tell you it takes 595 cranks to equal an acre's worth of seed going through the big box. Well, guess what? We're not doing 595 cranks, and then I'm going to put a whole acre's worth of seed right here at the back of this drill. What we're going to do is to crank it 60 times, which is 1/10 of an acre, and we've calibrated, where we've done the math to figure out how much should come out of one tube in 1/10 of an acre. There are 10 tubes in the back. We're catching actually 3 tubes of seed in a plastic bag, and we'll weigh that, and that's how we'll know whether the setting that the rate sheet calls for is actually close, okay? One of the things you need to realize is that drills are, even though you've got a rate sheet and it looks like you can just look in there and get exactly the right rate, seeds change, seeds vary. Flow rates of seeds through a drill vary. One of the things that will cause them to vary a lot is the presence or absence of coating. When you look at a legume seed, they come with about 33% inert coating around the outside of the seed. This coating is very useful to us. It contains the rhizobia, it contains limestone, it contains fungicides to help us control seedling diseases, and we need all of that, but it changes the flow characteristics of those seeds. Now, intuitively, you would think that it's a bigger seed going through the same size opening. I need to open up the drill a little bit to make sure I'm getting enough seed out. Well, intuition will not help you in this instance. Usually, and it's been the case every time I've checked, coated seed, coated legume seed, and we've just done an example with orchard grass seed, coated seed typically flows faster through the drill. What you don't know is how much faster. So we've got coated seed here in the big seed box. It's Roundup Ready alfalfa, which they don't give away, by the way. So we want to make sure we get this seeding rate right. So we've got 3 tubes pulled off, rubber band around them, Ziploc bag around that to catch the seed. We've got a gram scale, and now we're going to crank 60 times. So hang on. This is the exciting part of the video, okay? Give you my best side. $60. Okay, let's go take the bags off and see how much we have. Where we left off, we were doing that very exciting 60 cranks on the shaft in order to move enough seed through tubes to represent 1/10 of an acre. And we've done the math, and we know that 1/10 of an acre for what we're trying to put out here of this Roundup Ready alfalfa would be 2.3 pounds across for 1/10 of an acre. We got 10 seed tubes, so we now we know how much should come out of one tube. And we collected 3 tubes to make sure that we didn't happen to find a tube that wasn't working very well or not representative. So we collected 3 tubes. You have to take it off at right there above the double disc openers. We're using the big seed box. Then take those tubes. We took a rubber band and bound them together and put them in here and laid that across the support beam for our seeding mechanism. It stayed put, thankfully. We didn't lose it on the ground. And then and that was going on while we turned it 60 cranks. So we should collect 1/10 of an acre. We've done the math all the way out, and we should come out with 313 grams of seed. Now, we put it in a plastic bag like this, so we had to take off the weight of this plastic bag, which was about 12 grams. It was pretty negligible. We used a typical postage scale like this. Not very expensive. You can find them at any office store. So here's how I'm doing my tare. I'm going to do the 0 out, my empty bag. And here's my 1/10 of an acre across 3 tubes. Make sure it's not resting. There we go. 329 grams. So we're off about 16 grams. And for purposes like this, if we're within 10%, we don't want to change the mechanism. So we're good to go here with the way Keith has this set up. All right, we're down here really at the business end of this drill. We've talked through getting the drill level. We've talked through how do we get the main seed box calibrated to put the right amount of seed through the big tubes. But now let's talk about depth control and where the seed comes out. And on this drill, there are 2 places the seed comes out. If you're using the main seed box, the big one, then it's coming out through the big tubes, which is, here's an example of the big tube. If you're using the small seed box, you'll have seed coming out the small seed tube. The big seed tube drops seed between the double disc openers that are cutting in to the vegetative material. Now, we're in a prepared seed bed today, but if you were no-tilling into an existing sod, trying to thicken it up, then that double disc opener is very important to you. It's going to open up that sod. It's going to create a place for that seed to land exactly where you want it. Now, we're also talking about a situation with a producer who wants to seed orchard grass and timothy together. And we talked about, okay, putting the orchard grass in the big box, the timothy is a small seed, and putting it in the small seed box. But one of the things that we talked through, and we've come up with, I think, a better idea. But let's talk about if you put that timothy or clover in the small seed box, then it's coming through these small seed tubes And actually it's dropped from a height of about 6 inches onto the ground in that furrow created by the double disc openers. So if we're working with a lot of vegetation, then there's a good chance that we're going to have some vegetation moving back and forth, and we're going to have less than precise seed placement from the small box, right? So here's our solution for that mixture of orchard grass and timothy. Mix the proportions that you want. In this case, he wants 12 pounds of orchard grass, 8 pounds of timothy. Mix it together and put it in the big box and calibrate then to deliver 20 pounds of material per acre, the same way we did calibrating to deliver 23 pounds of alfalfa per acre. Because there are no tables for mixtures with drills, pick the biggest seed, pick the orchard grass, and use that setting to start with, and then work from there until you get down to what you want. And what we think will do is then both of the seed types are going to fall down there between the double disc openers, and we've got a more precise way of getting that seed in the right location rather than using the back seed box, which is coming through the small tubes. So, take a look at the seeding chart, your seeding rates, pay attention to what you've got to seed, and then choose the right kind of box, calibrate accordingly. And then when we're done with that, and you're actually beginning to put seed out, here's the number one problem with no-till drills, and I guess the number one reason for failures, and that's seeding too deeply. And we want to not seed too deeply. And I've got a rule of thumb that says if you finish and you don't see some seed on top of the ground, typically it's a little bit deep. Now in this case, in this field, we've got a prepared seed bed, so the soil is moving quite a bit. The other thing that you want to do is to grab you a screwdriver, which I have somehow misplaced, but a screwdriver, drop it down into the furrow, and it should only go down about the finger joint, right? No more. The bottom of that furrow, which is the bottom of the double disc opener, should only be about a ½ inch deep, and that sets the limit on how deep that seed can go. And use a knife or use a screwdriver, but that's how you know how deep it is. If it's going too deep or too shallow, your adjustment for fixing that is right here. This T-shaped handle. Moving it towards the front of the drill makes it more shallow. Moving it towards the back of the drill makes it deeper. And in this case, we've got a prepared seed bed. It's really easy on prepared seed beds to get it too deep. And Keith has this set up to go as shallow as it can go. And we just checked the furrow, and I like the seed placement. So this is, the business end of the drill. All the time that you spend back here is never wasted to make sure that seed's coming out, that you've got the seed coming out the right tubes, making sure that, like we found here today, somebody left us a present in the small seed box. They didn't quite get all of the seed taken out. And we've got a little germination party happening up there in those cups that we'll have to clean out. So, when you're setting up the drill, this really seems like wasted time. It just seems inefficient, but you'd be surprised at how oftentimes this prep on the front end saves you a lot of anguish on the back end when you find out that your seed hasn't been coming out the whole time, or only been coming out of, say, 6 out of 10 tubes. All right, we talked about the back end being the business end of this no-till drill. Of course, what makes it a no-till drill are those cutting coulters, which are at the very front of this seeding mechanism under the drill. That opens up the sod and allows the double disc openers to do their job. Now, what I've told you that this T mechanism on the back is how we determine that seeding depth. And all the way forward is shallow, all the way back is deep. And what I want to do is demonstrate what happens. Well, demonstrate how easy it is to move these things. And we're doing it when it's in transport mode here, which is the easiest way. But right now, all of them are in the all forward position, which is the shallowest setting. But I'm going to move this one. I'm going to leave this one same. I'm going to move this one all the way to the back, and you can see that was awfully easy to do. And then what that does, it moves a rubber block in this channel such that you have varying amounts of play here with this press wheel in the back. So this is our shallow press wheel. So watch how little it can move, right? And that's where it's going to hold that double disc opener, right? This one, set at the deepest setting, allows this to go all the way up here, which is going to allow that double disc opener, probably in most cases, to go way too deep, right? So this is the way we adjust the depth, to fine-tune that depth control. All the way back is deep, all the way forward is shallow, and that's what it adjusts. All right, what we would like to do now is to kind of put you in the spot where you have now picked up this no-till drill and you're going to move it off-site and move it to your farm. The way you're going to find it most likely is the way that it's pictured here. So let's look at a couple of things. One of the things you'll notice is it's going to be, this one it's lifted all the way up. On the hydraulics are all the way up. And we have this brace or hydraulic, what do you call it, Keith? Hydraulic brace, there you go. And what that does is it's a transport brace that allows you to take all the pressure off the hydraulics, so when you're going down the road, you're not bouncing and putting strain on the hoses and the hydraulic system. So that's the transport brace. And you attach it, there's a little pin that allows you to take it off when you get to your farm, and it goes right back up here. There's one for each side. Put the little pin in. Don't put it in your pocket. Don't take it home. And don't drop it on the ground like I just did. Second time's the charm. There's one on the other side as well. So now you've taken off this brace off the hydraulics, so it's free to move. This would be after you've gotten home, right? You're ready to start setting up your drill at your place. The other thing you need to make sure for transport purposes, this needs to be in place, and the hub that drives the mechanism of the drill needs to be disengaged. And if you forget which way it goes, there's a nice little decal right on the side. When you've got it locked out or pulled out all the way in the outside setting, then it's free to rotate and it doesn't drive all of the mechanism. When it's locked in, it's ready to plant. So I'm fixing to move it from the locked out setting to the locked in setting, and just to show you how quick and easy it is. Even an agronomist can do it. And there you go. Now it's locked in. When these tires turn, it'll move the seeding mechanism. And of course, when you're going to take it back, and you hook it up to your truck to take it back, do this in reverse. Lock out that hub so it's not engaged, right? Take your brace, hang on to the little pin. Put this back in place. Put the pin in place on both sides, and you're ready to go.